All right, so Mr. Kurt made a video response to me. I guess I want to respond a little bit back. I talked about consciousness as existence. Um, is that once things started swirling around, then consciousness became had this sort of active component. But prior to that, everything just was, and there was just consciousness not doing anything. That's kind of problematic for me. And yeah, I could be wrong about this, but a lot of the authors that I've read and have kind of resonated with, uh, talk about consciousness in a much more, not as being active, but as being an action. There's consciousness is not a thing. It's not a substance. It's thing that we do. Um, So yeah, so the idea that there could be consciousness that doesn't do anything is kind of nonsensical to me because consciousness is something that we do. It's um, yeah, and so it talks about past, present, and future being sort of all happening at once, and in a sense, I do think that a sort of just linear view of time is kind of mistaken, but I do think there are meaningful differences between past, present, and future. Um, I think I think of the past, as I mentioned in the previous video, is kind of this built-up pattern, which is present in a sense. It is as I do believe that it is kind of here now, in sort of the patterns that it has built up, and sort of the resonance that is created. Um, in the future, I see as kind of the unmanifest, the these sort of archetypes, or as Whitehead called them, eternal objects, about of things uh, that we can move towards. But talking about the future as sort of being already here now implies a kind of determinism that I would have to disagree with. I think that instead, the future consists of possibilities of different uh, of different things that we can reach out towards, and we pretend these the future almost as archetypes that we move towards. Um, and actually, that's where a lot of my theology comes into play. In a sense, I think of God as being, if God is located in any sort of time, I think of not necessarily in the present, not necessarily in the past, and not outside of time, but sort of rather being in the future, guiding us towards something. Um, but anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Um, I kind of, as I mentioned, I kind of see um, consciousness as being an interaction, as being something that is that happens between subject and object, or more broadly between subject and environment. Um, and even in like non-dualistic consciousness, where subject and object merge, it's kind of it's not that consciousness has become um, dominant because it's merged with its object. It's actually kind of realizing the illusion of separation between subject and object. Subject and object are united by consciousness. And so consciousness is that which unites, or which unifies its the perceived. And when at a higher level, it unites the perceived with the perceiver. But anyway, I guess I'll kind of close this out with a few book recommendations so you can figure out what the hell I'm talking about. One of which is it's called The Embodied Mind by Francisco Varela, Evan Thompson, and Eleanor Roche. It's a good introduction to the idea of what I call the embodied mind, or the inactivist paradigm. Inactivism, or when we're talking about embodied consciousness, I think to some spiritual types, it sounds a little bit too close to what they think of as scientific materialism. You're talking about embodiment, everything kind of, all mind has a body, everything is always embodied and always, grounded into this world. And it sounds, a lot of people, think it sounds kind of, materialistic, kind of reductionistic, but actually it's very holistic. And you should know that Francisco Varela was actually a very devout practicing Buddhist through his life. And the other book I would recommend, if you have the patience for a rather thick book, is Philosophy in the Flesh by George Lakoff and Mark Johnson. And they talk. George Lakoff is a linguist, so there's a lot of stuff about embodied metaphors and how our language is constructed out of our embodied experience and so forth. But towards the end, you talk about embodied philosophy, and it even goes into spirituality and how there can be kind of embodied spirituality, embodied religion, embodied mysticism, even. So I would recommend looking into inactivism, and actually I'll link to the Wikipedia article on it if that gives you a little heads up about it. So I guess I'll just leave it there now. Peace.